This is Merchandise Mart. Transfer to Brown Line trains at Merchandise Mart. Doors closing.
Yeah, good.
Welcome to the Wyzendale Weekly Wrap-up. This is the Wine and Cheese edition. Today I got a very special guest, mover and a shaker, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Derrick C. Westbrook, sommelier, retail wine shop / wine bar owner, eternally curious, all of those things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, salute, man.
Salute.
For sure. What do we got here? Just to kick us off, just to introduce what our palates are tasting for those out there.
So the grape is called Rotgifler. We're in Austria. It's an indigenous grape to the region. I really like it because it has like that acidity, that brightness, but there's some richness underneath, some fattiness. So I was thinking about this as if Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, like California Chardonnay, New Zealand or Loire Valley Sauvignon Blanc had a love child, this is what it would be, right? It has some fat, it has some weight, but it's crisp, it's bright, perfect for this time of year as well. And I really like Central Eastern Europe. And when we're focusing on wine regions and stuff to drink.
Where's your favorite wine region? I know that's a tough one.
It depends on the day. So there's like two areas I love. Like classically, it's Loire Valley, France.
Oh yeah. I'm French all the way.
Yeah, because the red, white, it's thought to be the garden of France. So that's like my classic region I'm in love with. But probably the two places that have my heart. One is Priorat, Spain. I love it to spend some time there. It is one of the best and worst places in the world to grow grapes.
Nice.
Mainly because it's super mountainous, sheer cliffs. They have to cut terrace in the mountain to plant the vines. Yeah. And they make world-class wine that is oft overlooked. And then the other one, my other baby would be Canary Islands. I fucking love Canary Islands.
Nice. I haven't even.
It's fire. Man.
I haven't even heard of wine.
Man, there's a couple grapes. Listan Negro, aka Pais. That's one of my favorite red grape varietals. They have Listan Blanco too. But I love that region mainly because it's black soil. It looks like aliens landed because it's black soil, and they have it looks like craters, but they just carve ditches. So there's no vine. There's not like the rows of vines you see in California. It's none of that. It's like one bush vine sitting here with rocks around so the wind doesn't knock it over. It's crazy.
That's cool.
That's
really cool. And what are the flavor profiles? I think you just said it, of the grape there.
Yeah, so Listan Negro, I always think of it in this way is, I build flavor profile based on location, right? Okay. So you're on an island off the coast of Africa. So basically it is super windy, extreme, volcanic soil. So you got that, right? You got this really high acidity. You're going to get some saltiness because it is in the middle of the ocean. So any water that's picking up is going to have a little bit higher level of salinity. And it's going to be dense because the vines have to work so hard. You're getting smaller bunches, so you're getting more intense flavor from the juice. So these, think big, weighty, inky reds that can age forever. You know what I mean? Because it did it all. It's like diamonds. I think of it like a diamond. You know what I'm saying? Like that, or like pearls, right? You think about that grain of sand. What happens to a lot of pressure and a lot of heat, and that's what's happening.
That's what you like. Well, fuck. Excuse my language. We hopped right in. We can do whatever.
If I can get a fuck out of you, then I'm on my job.
Because we hopped right in. So a little bit more about you. Wine extraordinaire, sommelier. Now, is there different level? Now, I know there's different levels, but at what level?
So I'm level 2, certified sommelier. So there's 4 levels.
4 levels.
Master's the highest, advanced, then certified, which I am, introductory. And so I'm certified sommelier. I think the biggest, when we talk about why I can be here and sit here, I think the biggest points are I ran 2 Michelin star restaurants before I ever became a certified sommelier. Under 30. So that was that was the thing that put me on the map with a lot of people.
Were they in Chicago? Or?
Yeah, so I was at Next right before it was a Michelin star restaurant, and then I was cellar manager, cellar rat there, and then Elizabeth, which is 1 star, it's a chef.
She's still around?
Yeah, so she's still around. A chef Alana Reagan, farm to table, 22 seats, just hidden jewel. I always talk about us as the speakeasy of Michelin stars. Like, she's a beast, like in the best way possible. Gangster, especially, being a woman in a avenue that's dominated by men, like an arena like that. She's one of the best.
Yeah.
Arguably in my book the best.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the biggest thing is that I was on the cover of Wine Enthusiast magazine, 40 Under 40, 2018. So I'm the first person to look like me who's like wine guy.
Yeah.
Like, there was a couple other people, black people, but it was like, they weren't really important. It was only like Dwayne Wade, Quincy Jones, and Obama. But
Whatever.
Who are those guys? So,
I was just gonna say that.
So, what I'm saying? I guess like
Rashida though, Rashida Jones.
Yeah, Rashida Jones. Yeah,
I know who that is.
Yeah,
I know who everybody is too. But
Yeah.
Rashida, you can call me.
So like it's.
Well, no, that's a huge accomplishment, man. That's awesome.
So like, I think like when people talk about the bullet points, so like when my business partners and managers, when they want to give me shit, they're like, oh, this guy. It's like,
well, no, on the correspondence we were having, and then like you added 2 people on there, and I'm like, okay, is this guy getting his management involved? Like I wasn't sure how it all went down, and I was like, okay, well, because I was gonna say, well, I only have 3 mics because I didn't know you were inviting other people.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah,
no, you're good.
Well, so I have a management team, which is really weird to say. Probably one of the few sommeliers who like has a team. But I have a management team who we work together to kind of build out a couple events. I have an event series called Samples and Samples that started what year is this? 2020? Probably, right. I think 2017. Yeah, man, 3 years.
Nice.
2017. And what we do is we travel the country and I pair wine with music. So,
awesome.
We did 8 cities. We were supposed to go back on tour this summer, but, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so,
So when you sample the wine with the music, which one takes lead?
So it depends. So I have kind of autonomy. The way I usually do it is I'll pick a wine. So I have the 6 wines, and then we do 18 records, right? And so the idea is I'll take a wine. So like for this Rotgifler, so I'll talk about it. It's rich, it's creamy, it has some brightness. Oh, of course. That's how I know it's good. If you want more.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you pour somebody wine and they're like, no, I'm fine. That one glass was good. I was like, oh, it wasn't good.
It didn't go over.
That wasn't a winner. So, but like I'll say, like this is bright, on top, but it has rich, creamy, has a base, has a bottom, so it has this like little like rumbling sound. So this would make me think of like.
Are you gonna go south?
No, I wouldn't go south. On the fly, let me taste it. I got some records in my head. So, I go. Oh, this is like Stevie Wonder, Isn't She Lovely, right? Because Isn't She Lovely? Stevie Wonder is known for horns, known for like, piano or Uptight. Lady, uptight and all right. So you have that like really bright kind of freneticness on top, but then you have like this great bass line that holds you down, that keeps you there, that keeps you like going and moving. And I think like wine having those 2 layers, it tastes like a record that has those 2 layers. So that would be an example. Instead of me telling you the record, I say, this wine is bright, crisp, minerally, it has some weight, has some creaminess, and this wine sounds like, and then my DJ plays the record.
Nice.
And then my DJ will play a second record that sounds like the wine. So we'll have 3 records picked out so you can hang out, kick it. And then we'll come back, do it all over again 6 times.
So when you scope out the spaces, or how do you determine what space? Because space is a huge component of it, right?
So it's all about acoustics and like energy. So we've done a couple where we partner with City Winery to do like all of their places across the country. And then we've done like some really cool spaces. So we've done my wine shop. We've done like cool homes. We've done like really open air spaces. One of the things that Samples and Samples started in my apartment, right? And so a couple of times because that storytelling is super important with me, like I'll set the space up like my apartment to take you back to that moment when I first figured out what samples was, when it first touched me. So it's all about framing, structuring, and what's really interesting is, you know, being here in a design place. I feel like I can't get away from it because my business partner's wife is high-end interior designer.
Oh, great.
So like I've become even more conscious about like space and aesthetic. You know, like I've been just recently started collecting art seriously.
Nice.
And like with those, like thinking about that aesthetics, about like how the visual affects, you know, the other senses, you know, sight, sound, taste, like those three things together, the importance of that. So that's been something that's, you know, really been big, especially in the last like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to take a moment here to give a shout out to Corey, Level Reps, and Hightower for hosting us today. Beautiful showroom here. 2019 Best of Neocon small showroom design. I think it's a residential designer out of Seattle. I can't remember the name, but a beautiful showroom here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
If you guys can ever stop by and take a look. But so sample by sample or sample and sample?
Samples and samples.
Samples and samples.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you're pairing the music, and then what type of DJ? Like, are you traveling with your sound squad too?
So what we do is we do different DJs in each city. The idea is, and we typically mostly, probably other than like 2 or 3 times, we work exclusively with women DJs.
Okay.
And the idea is, you know, women have better palettes when it comes to like wine and like aesthetics of what's like beauty. Like I keep drawing to, it's funny, like I'll have an idea and like I'll pitch it to my friends and we'll sit down. And a lot of times, like the people I've worked with, the people who've been really integral in my success have been like being around women. And so it's like, well, why not listen? Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I feel like you don't see a lot of women DJs. They don't get the love that they deserve. So that's my way of like doing something small. Like,
it's cool.
Like it's
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge thing, but at least it's
every little bit counts.
Yeah,
right? Especially if we're talking now about movements and the way people feel. Like every little bit, every notion fucking helps for sure.
And so we do a different DJ in each city.
Okay, so the DJs are from the city.
From the city, and the idea is I want to tap into the aesthetic, the feel of what that city, the music, what people are listening to, what they're playing, right? Like it's, you know, I can dump in, come in and like play the records I want to play, you know, pick the wine, just pick whatever wines and just do it, and just, it's a lot easier just to make it replicable like that, to replicate it like that. But I want to pick different wines and different records, just so I can connect with whatever city I'm in and allow, like, you know, the DJ to do what they do. Like, they're professionals. Let them DJ. Let them get their, you know, let them get their joint off. So.
Absolutely. And are you, like, how curated are you taking it? Like, when you go to a different city, like, is the wine particularly grown there, or do you take it all the way down to that microscope?
So what we do is we kind of build a storyboard. So what I'll do is, say we're going on an 8-city run, right? So I'll sit and we'll connect with all the DJs. We'll pick kind of our wines that we definitely want to showcase everywhere, and then we'll mix in a couple things that we want to do local to the story we want to tell. So basically, I'm writing a new script, a new kind of, you know, treatment for each city. Excuse me. And so in that writing, that treatment, I want to hone into like what makes that, what is the feel, what is the energy of the city. So like, for instance, like
that's cool.
And you know, in the South, like Nashville, which I'm born and raised, like I'm mixing like trap with blues, with like gospel soul, with a little bit of like country. Like all of those things are elements that I want to pull from, because those things are like real to the area. Like I could come in and just play any record, but I'd rather play something that like connects with the city and something that like gives me an opportunity to learn and grow at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you mentioned Nashville. I went down there for a bachelor party a couple of years ago, and I was like, no, I don't want to go to Nashville, like whack, you know, country music. 'Cause I'm not a big fan of country music. And they're like, no, trust me, like the country music that's played down there is different than what you're thinking of pop country or whatever it may be. But I had a really good time down there in Nashville for sure.
There's two things I always talk about when I talk about Nashville. I say you could start, because Broadway's like the major street.
Yeah.
I say you could start at one end of Broadway with just your underwear on, get to the other end and be fully clothed, because they have like all of the shops. You look like a cowboy, but
Yeah, I bought my cowboy hat
there
down
you go. You can be
Not even gonna lie.
outfitted like on Broadway. And the other thing is some of the best music you'll ever hear is in those clubs in Nashville, because everybody's like trying to like they're playing, and you'll hear people who like, you know, there's a lot of great writers, and those writers don't have a place to play. They're musicians first, but you know, they need to write to pay the bills. And so they play their own stuff. So you'll hear some amazing artists, and not just country artists. You'll hear like soul, you'll hear like gospel influence. You'll definitely hear like this kind of like, you know, bluegrass influence too. You'll hear like alternative music, and all of it just has, and when you put all of those types of sounds together, like the things you can create in the city is amazing. So
And
I love
they're
going
all
back.
tipped, right? Aren't all the musicians tipped? Or?
I don't know exactly. I can make
For
it
the
up.
most part,
But I think there's some of it is tipped, some of it is kind of like giggy.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you can get a residency. Some people can do that. So it just depends. I think like the one thing about those, and I don't know enough about it, but I know one thing like I've always been cognizant of or wanted to maintain importance is that like I like the idea of your talent getting you into those places more so than like the connection, or also you know, knowing a person knows a person. Like I know it's relationships, but the importance of, yo, can you play? And I don't care if you have representation or not, can you play? And is your shit dope? Like that's the thing that like I want to stay. And I haven't been in the music scene in Nashville long enough to know if like that still rings true. But that's something that like I think is really important, especially like knowing people who live there now and who are writers there and like who have great music there right now. So
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, kicking it back over to the store. Tell us a little bit more about the store.
Yeah, so I have a wine shop in the West Loop called 1340. And if you want to guess the address, it's 1340. So
Branding.
Yeah, there you go. I try to make it as easy as possible, right? And it's easy for me to remember. So it's 1340 West Madison. So like just like 4 blocks east of United Center. You know, like, you know, a block away from Washington. So like we're right there.
Yeah.
But it's a retail shop and wine bar. So we sell wine, beer, spirits. My argument is like we're the largest wine bar. We have the largest wine and beer selection in the city to consume, mainly because you can just pull anything off the shelf and drink it there. Nice. So it probably isn't true, but it sounds good.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds good. Look, if I get you to walk in, what's in the door? I don't care. Like,
Yeah, right, you're
like,
there.
You're gonna like it anyway, so I don't care. Like, just to get you in
And
the door.
how long has that been open?
So the shop has been there like roughly almost 9 years. I've been a part of it in an official capacity as far as like partnership for the last 2.
Okay,
Cool.
cool.
It's all a blur now, but yeah.
And how has the COVID and everything affected what you guys are doing?
I mean, you know, like we lost 2 out of our 3 revenue streams. So 6% of our revenue streams, we lost. But like we didn't, you know, I want to say, you know, people are drinking, so that helped. But we kept our numbers, you know, we had to scratch and claw, but we kept our numbers fairly flat, which is, you know, no one wants flat numbers, but in this environment, like flat is good. Flat is a win.
Right.
So yeah, so we've been hustling, you know, doing a lot of like internet stuff. I'm not a huge Zoom fan because like I want to touch you, like I want to be able to have that connection, but it's really forced me to get better at being able to do those things. So.
How are we doing on our social distancing?
I mean, I feel good. This feels good. You know what I mean?
Does it look good? Everything looks good? Okay.
And the crazy thing is, it's bananas, like this social distance thing. So also, one interesting thing is I coach Little League. Well, I don't want to call it Little League anymore because they're like grown. They're like 14 now.
Yeah.
But I've known them since they're grown. I've known them since they were like 10, 11. And you know, we're coaching and trying to play, and we're trying to do that baseball social distancing. So like I'm really cognitive about it, mainly because like I'm telling them to be mindful about it. So like when you're trying to get 14-year-olds to understand it, it's like, oh, like you need to take it serious.
You have to do it too, right?
Yeah, I know. And it makes me like I'm probably better at it than I wouldn't be otherwise because I have to be mindful. So
Yeah, that's cool. And it's how is that year round, or is it only in the summer?
Only in the summer. So like we started the season late. We just started. Actually, I'm gonna leave here and go coach a game. So
okay, nice.
So yeah. So
where do you guys play?
So we play in Livingston Park. So it's west, probably near like Harrison and Ogden, like in that like kind of not the cross section of Harrison
and Ogden.
But yeah, like in that area. There's it's near the what's the place where you give blood? Not Red Cross. So Red Cross. There's a Red Cross right over there. We're like there's a complex next to it. It's great turf field.
Nice.
So it's really nice. So
Dope.
yeah.
Dope.
It's a lot of fun. So socially distant baseball.
There you go. Hey, try it.
We're trying it.
So when you pick up a brand like this, what are you looking at, or how do they approach you in the shop?
Yeah. So
how do you find these brands?
Yeah. So it's kind of there's kind of multi-layered. One way is my relationships with distributors.
And what's the name of it again?
So this is Rheinisch. So Johanneshof. Rheinisch, so that's the producer. Rotgifler is a grape varietal, and Austria is the country in which it's from.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah.
For a little,
no. Here, this is what I'm gonna do.
Maxing this.
No, crush it. There you go. I'm gonna get myself. The conversation will only get better too.
Right.
The more we drink.
Exactly.
But yeah, so the way I come about like these wines, there's multiple avenues, but this one in particularly is relationship based with distributors. So most of the distributors I work with, kind of at this point after being in the game for like 9, almost 10 years, and probably being serious about it and like buying for the last 4 to 6. My math may be off. 2014, yeah. So 4 to 6. Mm-hmm. My distributors have kind of figured out what I like, the style that I'm into, regions that I'm gonna be dealing with, and the stuff that I'm like really, really into. So they will bring me things in kind of that vein, and a lot of it is like seeing what people are doing, where they're drinking, like Instagram, even looking at Instagram and seeing like shops that I really love, or even other sommeliers, stuff that like, oh, I trust their palate, they have something cool, let me taste it and see if I like it too. So it's just that. And then also like in building a wine list, systematically going through, and I'm nerding out a little bit.
No,
but
keep nerding. Keep it.
Going through and thinking about, okay, what regions do I have to have?
Yeah.
Right? What styles are necessary, and particularly with Austria, Central Eastern Europe, what are the areas that like people aren't really focusing on that still hit all the points? Like it still hits the natural wine point. It's still organic. I think this is biodynamic. Like low intervention. Like it hits all those buzzwords. It's real wine. Hits all those things, but it doesn't present like a natural wine, right? Like it doesn't present as a hipster wine. It just presents as something really dope, and then like I sneak in the natural stuff. So like if somebody wants like, oh, I want a natural wine, or I want something like low intervention, sustainable, like I can show them this bottle and the wine's still really pretty, really clean. So it does all those things, and I really like to focus on wines that are like versatile, like power and speed. Like can you like
the finesse,
right,
like fast, slow, anything,
100%. Like can you be underground, like out, like I want a wine that was the band that you fell in love with before they got popular, but when they got popular, they didn't like start to switch it up. Like they grew up, right? They changed, but they didn't start to lose.
Who would you call that right now?
Like I'll tell you, like,
in any music, it doesn't matter.
Like I think
John Legend.
I was gonna say Kendrick. I think like.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm hating on John Legend because he puts out Christmas albums now. So
yeah, I'm
I know.
There's a close connection to John Legend, so what I'm saying. Sorry, John.
My bad, John. You just lost me on that Christmas album. That's it. That's all. I'm keeping it honest with you.
Yeah, my rule too when it comes to wine and when it comes to music is like I'm like, look, get your money, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, get your money. And then like after you like, but in getting your money, you make decisions that feel best for you. So you know what I'm saying? I support John.
Of course. I'm just talking shit.
Yeah, I know. Hey, look, you say it because I can't right now.
He said it.
He said it. This views do not represent. And then I got
so
true. Yeah. But yeah, so I think like Kendrick is one of those guys who like sustained himself and like was the same. I think there's numerous artists who like changed up. Like I'll tell you something. Here's a guilty pleasure. group that I really used to love. Like I used to love Creed, like way back when, right? And then like so much so that like they changed their name to Alter Bridge, and I was like still trying to follow them, right? And that was one of them.
Know
I was
they changed their name.
Yeah, so
really?
like the front man left or something, and then they changed their name to Alter Bridge. So like, I know it's really weird that like that's one of the records that I really like, but like that's one of those like artists who I was really into as a kid. It was that was an odd time. Yeah, I had like, what was I listening to? It was like Creed. I had like some Tupac albums, and then I had like Nappy Roots, Boyz II Men, and then there was like, I think it was right around the time like Cameron had an album like Come Home With Me. I feel like that all of it, like I don't know if they were all putting out records, but I remember like those records being in rotation all at the same time. Like that tells you the mind of a teenager, right? It's like that kid is problem, like right, like if you want to know you want to know teenagers are unstable. Did you hear my music
flip
taste?
through his CD holder?
Like, oh, this kid is like a lot of weird shit. So
yeah, I think my not Eastern European, just European in general is Georgian wine. Because there was a restaurant on Chicago. Forgot the name of it. I think it's a German restaurant, newer, and they had some Georgian wine. Actually, I lie. It was Heritage on Chicago and like Rockwell area. Yeah, they served us some of that. Is it Georgian? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, Georgian
wine for dessert actually.
Nice.
And like as a nightcap. Sweet. It was really nice, and every time I go out, if I ever see it on the menu, I order it for sure. It's really good.
You know what's funny is last night I was in a Zoom wine class, so because I often don't really get to like sit down and learn as much. Actually tomorrow I have another tasting group, but I really cherish those moments to sit down and taste and like learn, because I feel like I'm on the teaching end a lot. But we were just doing Georgian wine last night, and to name drop, like it was like Chris Terrell is like one of the greatest Georgian wine importers out, and he was on the Zoom talking about it. So it's funny you mentioned that, because
oh really nice,
Georgian wine is like oft overlooked like that. M4 Quevri wines are like super fire, and like there's complexity and nuance, but we just don't. That's why I like focusing on like those regions and learning about those regions, because I feel like that's the great equalizer. Like everyone can't afford Bordeaux, everyone can't afford Burgundy. Like California is like, you know, like hit or miss and expensive sometimes. Yeah. So like, how do we find like what's the common ground for like, you know, people who want to like geek out, the nerds, and people who are price sensitive. Yeah. And like if you want some money to spend but you don't want to get everything that everyone else is having, like. Well,
I always think of German, which is Riesling.
Yeah, so there's a couple grapes.
That's why, like, for me, and I'm not big into wine like that, so that's why when everybody would mention European wine, I would say, oh, German Riesling. And then when they're like Georgian, and I'm asking my girl, I'm like Atlanta type thing? She's like, no, it's over there. And so when I found out more about it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm becoming a wino. You know, now I know another grape or another wine over there. So,
no, that's fire though. Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about the finesse of wine. So you like the in and out, or the complexity, I guess, of wine.
So yeah, I think like I always think about really great wines in this way. I think about it like a really great joke, right? Like one example is like Shrek, like the first Shrek, where the kids and the adults were laughing for different reasons. Like that's a really great wine. When like for the geeks, it hits all those points that you want as a geek. Like it, you know, plays with brand. And for somebody who just wants to drink it, just to drink something that's enjoyable, like it does that. Like that is, when I go to taste, I taste for that. And then I also taste for like, you know, it's that yummy factor. Is it yummy? Mm-hmm. And also, does it feel like it's manipulated? Like, does it taste like it comes from a place, or does it taste like it's a drink that someone created? You know what I mean? Like, is it Coca-Cola, right? Right? Or is it that smoothie we just made? You know what I mean? Like, does it have like complexity? Is there certain things that like feel right or feel like it is, you know, it is rooted in something, right? The wine should taste like where it comes from. It should.
And so how we got on that was about like the brand approaching you or buying it in the shop. So how do you know what to buy in the shop, or how do you guys know like what to put together?
It's really easy. I taste everything before it comes in.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every beer, well, not every beer, but just about every beer. But every wine, every spirit, we taste all of it before it comes in. It doesn't go on the shelf until we know. And so our palates become the barometer, right? It's really hard work.
Someone's got to do it.
Oh no, right? Oh,
Someone's got to do it.
So like that's kind of our approach and the nice thing is it forces us to taste wine, not just with our own not just like with our own perspective, but because we're selling it and this is business, we're tasting it for the perspective of the entire radius of consumers. But within that, realizing that if I'm gonna meet every consumer, I need to meet them where they are, but still I want to give them a certain level of quality. And so that's the thing I'm super focused on. Like my business partner and I, we're always focused on like, yo, instead of giving you that that crappy beer that you used to drink in college, like what is the alternative at the same price as well made?
Right.
Let's go find that and let's sell that. And that's kind of our answer to those things is
So if you had to put a number of like how many different bottles you have, how many?
Minimum 500 to 600 different SKUs.
Damn.
And we rotate through them. Some stuff we'll buy that no one else in it. We'll buy it all out of the city, and so we'll be the only. Like there's probably 2 or 3 on our shelf that no one else in the city has, or maybe one other place has. And that's on the wine side. On the beer side, there's maybe a couple of those. But yeah, we really try to focus on being unique in that sense, but still being approachable.
And I'm assuming you guys have a wine club.
So we have a wine club.
Okay.
So our monthly wine club is super straightforward and simple. Is you get 2 bottles a month. You get to choose that. We have a flight of 6, and so you get to choose 2 from the 6. You get to taste them all, pick the ones you like, right? It's $50 a month, and you get the wine, the flight, 2 bottles of wine. One of the flights are free. You get to pick it out, and we change it up each month. So we're picking off the beaten path. We probably have only had like Cabernet, a Cabernet, a Chardonnay, and a Pinot Noir maybe of the past year and a half, maybe 5 times they've been on the list. So you got to think about what other grapes are we using, and we're focusing on Rotgefleur. We're focused on other varietals and styles to kind of push you, and you get the taste to determine like if you want to go there or not. So yeah.
And not to take it all the way back, I mean, testing for the sommelier, like, do you plan on trying to do the 3rd, or are you in the thoughts of that, or what's that?
I'm conflicted. It might get me in trouble, but I'll say it anyway. I think too, like kind of with the nature of where the quartermaster sommeliers is, like they've had some real issues with, racial, not only racial discrimination, but discrimination from women. I mean, like the way the test is set up, especially not taking into consideration trans folk. Like, there's a lot of issues around what the court is doing.
Okay.
And then I've even said that to some like people I've mentored. Is like I'm struggling to figure out what the next step is. Like I enjoy the process of studying and preparing for the exam and like being able to say like I'm a level 3, but like should I be giving like thousands of dollars? You know what I mean? Like travel, time, money. Like your dollar is your voice, and so like how do I really want to support that? So right now it's really like I'm studying and kind of learning, right? This is like kind of off season for me. Like, what I mean? Like I'm staying in the gym a little bit, just, trying to stay sharp, and then deciding, just like the NBA and NFL trying to decide when they come back. I'm trying to decide like what's the next step.
Your dollar is your voice. I mean, you completely, like I heard that literally yesterday from a family member because she stopped one newspaper subscription in the city and started up another one. She's like, you guys endorse this person, whatever, like I'm not giving you my money anymore. And I never really thought of it like that, and I think it's even more clear. Probably because we're in startup mode, so like every dollar counts. Every project counts. Like it's just it's a lot. So
100%.
But yeah, that's interesting for sure. So the wine club, but I wanted to hop back to I'm sorry, did you want to finish anything on that?
No, so I mean right now, I'm
for the test, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I'm just trying to become, the best sommelier I can be and rock out and
well, it sounds like you're still learning.
I'm always studying and learning. Like my palate, like it was funny. earlier when I walked in, I was sitting here and I was like, I was smelling and I was like, what is that I'm smelling like? And I was smelling the food, but I was like, there's something specific, and it's just, and my nose right now, like I'm on fire as far as like my nose being really strong right now. I don't know what it is. I wish I could bottle it right now, but there's ebbs and flows, and right now I'm like, man, I'm smelling really good. Like and smell is 90% of tasting. Yeah. And so, and just that's one thing I've been really cognitive is like, okay, I'm on my joint right now.
Oh yeah, well maybe it's the summer. You're working out or hitting it.
Working out. You know what I'm saying? The biking, opening up the passageways. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. So yeah.
Oh man, how far do you bike? How long do you bike?
So I live Bronzeville, and then the shop is in the West Loop. So it's like 7 to 10 miles. Yeah, it's good, right? Each way. Yeah. Some I get lazy sometimes coming back. So, but yeah, 7 to 10 miles. It keeps me it keeps. It keeps the dad body looking good. I'm not a dad yet, but you know what I'm saying? I'm practicing.
Yeah, right, exactly.
With the body. Exactly. So, you know what I mean? So there you go.
And what are you listening to? I know my teammate Mark rides a lot, but I don't think he does music. He just, because he's flying like 30 miles an hour. But what are you listening to?
It's music and podcasts, mostly podcasts. Like I'm listening to Questlove's podcast. It's like Joe Budden podcast.
Everybody's got a podcast, man. I mean, you're on one right now. I mean, and that's the thing, like when we first started this 2 years ago, we are like, fuck it, let's do a podcast. It's like everybody has one, but then it's like, do you know people who really have one? Because it takes a lot of work. And I treat it like, I pick and choose what I want to hear, what I want to listen to, what I'm trying to take in, like my mood like will determine. And then I'm listening to records like when I'm writing, so like for samples, like I'm writing treatments right now, so now I'm like playing records, putting stuff on shuffle, different genres. Like, my team will send me records that they really like. I'll like there's one of my favorite artists right now. His name is Fancy. He's coming out with a record on the 31st. And exactly how it sounds, spelled how it sounds.
Yeah, Fancy. So like this is his like debut album. He's from Nashville, so he's like a queer white dude who's super fucking soulful. And so like I've been listening to like, I have his album already, so I feel special. But I've been listening to his album a lot, just to like, it feels like I love that choir stuff. I love like that kind of big like churchy, like that it just resonates, like that bluesy stuff. And then sometimes it just depends. But that is I've been playing that a lot. Like just
when does it come out? I have to check it.
31st.
Drop it in here.
Yeah. So Fancy, July 31st. I forgot the title of the album. I just know all the records. Like, I don't know. You could have told him the title.
Right, exactly.
Sorry, Fancy. My bad, homie. The record's awesome though. But yeah, so I'm just listening to the album. Fancy, July 31st is when it's releasing. So, but yeah, I'm just listening to that a lot. Listening to like stuff that sounds like that has me in that feel, and then I'll go write, and then I'll put it down, and I'm the type that like I can listen to one song if it's like something I'm really really into. I'll listen to it the entire 30 to 40 minutes home.
Yeah, just repeat.
Yeah. And because on your bike ride, like it's weird, right? When you're riding, you go in and out of consciousness to what you're listening to. Sometimes like I'm riding and I'm not even listening, like the music is playing and then I'm looking at something, or like I'll start to trail off and think, and then something about a record will bring me back and I'll like focus in on that and just listen to that. So it's really like, it's funny listening to it for 40 minutes straight. You actually end up listening to each part of the song intently, at least at some period of time. So I find that really interesting. Like, and that I don't know a lot of people who do that, but there's a couple like other artists who I really appreciate, and they told me they do that too, and I was like, okay, I'm not the weirdo.
Right.
I thought it was crazy, but yeah. So that's what I'm doing: podcasts, records, just new stuff, and then sometimes
what I know I mentioned the podcast earlier, but what wine podcast do you
so to? I'll say this: I like listening to some wine podcasts, but I don't either, and I think what it comes from is this: I didn't grow up, like I didn't learn wine, and I didn't like gain my wine experience in Chicago in the traditional way. Like I was in the burbs, and then when I came to Chicago, I went to Next, and then I went to like a steakhouse, and was learning and like heard about stuff there, and then went to Next where like I got to really try like the great, cool, interesting stuff. And then, you know, at 28, 29, I had my own wine program. So I was in developing my voice, or, you know, for what I like in wine, while trying to run like one of, you know, Chicago's best restaurants, one of their best wine programs. And so for me, like, and it was away from everybody, so I didn't get to hear the noise. Like I still run into sommeliers who I should know, I guess, but don't. Not because I don't like most sommeliers, but I was gonna lie.
Good. As long as you have an opinion. I mean, I hated on John Legend. You're hating on sommeliers.
Yeah,
good.
I really like I don't like most of them. Like I have some friends in the industry, but like as a whole, like the genre, I guess, is like annoys me sometimes. Yeah. But I got to learn and cut my teeth with just trusting what I like and tasting what I like and being like, oh, I fuck with that. Mainly because when I was at Elizabeth, we didn't have the budget to compete with other, you know, 2-3-star Michelin restaurants. So I had to find, and that's where I fell in love with Central Eastern Europe wines and like off the beaten path stuff. Is because I couldn't out, you know, baller you, right? Like, you know, I couldn't out big boy you. So what would I do? Then I'll out cool you, right? Like right. That was my lane. And so like I really learned about wine in that way. Yeah. And I was able to do it without a lot of the noise.
And how, diving down the wine programs, how much wine is too much wine? I mean, like when you're talking about wine programs, or when you're talking about like wine lists, like sometimes you go to restaurants and there's like, I don't know, maybe 12. And then sometimes you go to restaurants and they have books of wines.
It's only too much when you can afford it.
When you can't afford it.
Cannot afford
it.
Right? If you can afford it, it's not too much.
That's true.
Right? Like you can have a book. Now, some of that gets into like, you know, can you train your team properly? Right,
exactly. Because now it goes into team and training, and for the guests. I mean, does the guest really want 30 selections?
I mean, if you design the book properly, the guest maybe never gets past page 5, but the ones who want to go to page 23, they'll get there, right? So I think like, I think it's nice. That's one thing I never had the opportunity to do, is like have a really big wine program and like be able to buy all the things I love. Yeah, I think like that is, you know, if I say not ever having like working in like a space or like owning and running a big program, that's probably the one thing I was like, man, I really wish I could just not buy without ever having to think about the price of stuff like that. Yeah. It would have been fire. Like, right. There's some joints right now that I've been eyeballing that I can't buy. Like, and I was like, man, I just give me you know what I'm saying, give me a check with endless amount of zeros. I can make a great wine program. And I think like some of these steakhouses here in Chicago, like they have like the money to go deep, which is cool. But I can't compete with those. So it was always about, well, let me outfly you.
So have flavor, style.
Yeah, you know like let me find a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
slowly. Corner, pocket. Let me find a pocket.
Go, right? Like I'm awkward, you know what I'm saying? Like I box lefty, I'm awkward. So like how can I like use that to my advantage? And that's kind of like the mentality I've had. So that's probably one of the reasons why I don't like, you know, a lot of it was maybe like envying other sommeliers who like had it easier. I realized like I had a really charmed experience, like being able to run programs at such an early age, but you know, having that like that, you know, that open checkbook was not always there for me. So I maybe, you know, a little bit of not liking them is like, yo, like y'all wasn't with me when I was shooting in the gym, like y'all would, like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I guess.
Such a great line, Rick Ross. Such a great line.
I mean, like
such a great line.
Here, like we can't be friends now. Like y'all wasn't my friend when I was nobody. Like I don't want to. I don't want to do this. Like I don't want to. Let me go play my records, hang out with people I like. Let me go hang out with artists and like designers, and like let's kick it with them. Like I want to drink with them because like I don't have to think or talk wine. I don't have to outcool you. I don't have to know producers. Like I never really learned producers because I wasn't focused on that, right? Because I couldn't. The big names would just upset me because I couldn't ever buy none of their shit. So it's like, well, I'm just gonna learn about these regions, these obscure places.
Well, it's a different way. It's a different way of attacking it, right?
Yeah,
a different
so,
style.
It worked for me, so I was like, let me do it. Hold on, you need a little more. Run on E there.
Yeah, no, we should probably.
We could do.
I was gonna pass another one over to Mark. Okay.
Yeah.
What were we talking about just now? Style, wine profile, things.
Oh, here's something I want to talk about too. I think one thing that I want people to know about wine and like my dislike. This is gonna be the I Hate Sommeliers podcast. By a sommelier.
There you go.
I just named your podcast for you. Sorry.
It's a segment.
But I think too, like the thing that I find interesting and important and cool is like the way I approach wine. Like my palate is based on not being in this space, in this box of what a sommelier should look like, sound like, move like, right? Like the thing I want to talk about, I use wine as a way to like dive into the things that really matter to me. How do we talk about mental health? How do we talk about like what does it look like for masculinity right now, especially like as a black man who grew up in the South, who played sports, who like learned how to be a man's man. Like what does that look like, and how is like what is the difficulty in realizing that oh shit, like the way we thought about this was really wrong, and like how you do that work. Like wine is my excuse to be able to get to those things that then questions that are really important. And it's my way to be like, okay, I don't feel like talking about this shit. Let's hang out. Right. So like, I think that's like one of the things I find that's really important that we haven't done in the hospitality industry as a whole is like allow for people to grow outside of themselves. Not saying like I'm not a professional. Like I got friends who are PhD students who study this thing. But what makes me dope is my curiosity and wanting to talk to them. And I think like we need more of that in the wine world, in the hospitality industry. But the problem is you know, in the hospitality industry, we love and fetishize like work to your bone, work to the bone that you never actually get to develop as an entire human being. Like it makes it very difficult, and like that's frustrating for me. That's why I got out of restaurants. It's like yo, I want to be an entire person, and if I keep doing this, I don't know if it's possible for me to like become. It goes fast. Yeah, right. Like
life goes fast for sure.
I don't know if I'm ever gonna become an entire person. Like yo, like I'm in my mid to late 20s. I need to I got a life I want to live. Like I have perspectives that I want to share and get out, and it's really hard to do that in hospitality. I think it's changing. Fast enough, no, but I think like that's one of the things I really think is important, and that's why I like music, art, like especially like art and being around artists and creatives, and then like being around like coaching Little League baseball. Out of all the things I've ever accomplished and out of this entire conversation, like the thing I like the most talking about is coaching those kids, right? I like this podcast is fun, but if it was 3 minutes over, I'd be like, yo, I gotta go. I gotta go put on my.
Gotta go.
Yeah,
gotta ride over there.
I don't know about you, but I got to bike over. Like there's been tastings like I've rescheduled. That like.
Well, let's crack open this red, by the way.
Oh, like there's been money. I was like, yo, I don't like. I could go get this check, but it would be much more fun.
Yeah, right.
How about this? Do you want me to put it on? I don't want to make a noise by putting it.
That's
on.
Right. I'll hold. No, I think it's breaking down the barriers is really what you're saying as far as like having the just toss it everywhere.
I'm not a real sommelier. I got rid of pasta syndrome a long time ago. I don't care what else.
For those of you listening audio, don't forget to check it out on video. We're on YouTube, posting this guy, but really breaking down the barriers as far as what it is, what it means to be a sommelier, what it means to be into wine, right? Like, why does it have to be viewed as a certain way? Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Gotta do my thing. You know what I mean? This color's crazy.
Get one for the people in the back too.
You might not want to do that. That one is too good. You might be.
Okay, that's good.
That's how you know who your friends are.
Right.
We give them a taste, a really tiny taste.
Right, exactly. So funny. But yeah, it's true. Like breaking it down for just breaking the communication, or not breaking down communication, breaking down barriers. And that's something that I'm trying to do with this podcast. And what I feel like I have done pretty successfully is just reaching out to different people. I mean, the amount of people I reach out to is crazy, right? Like it's a whole task within itself. Not only that, finding the showrooms and finding people who are open to it. Because I think like it takes a lot for people to be in front of a camera, have a microphone in front of them, and to really understand, like, hey, you have the option to say something and have an opinion, which is good, you know? What do we got here, by the way?
Salute.
You passed this one? Oh, man. You messed up. You messed up.
Some a little slight, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Just a little,
messed up.
A little something, you know what I mean? Just, you know. I had to let y'all, I came in and I saw who you did podcasts with before. I was like, okay, what they not finna do. They not finna come in here and have a better wine than me. I got
yes.
We not playing that game. I'm coming for your heads. I saw you. I saw the previous podcast people.
Right.
I'm coming for your head.
And they all had different styles too, which is interesting, right? Like they all had different styles. But I love it.
I like fake beef. It's just fake beef.
I love it. I love it though. I love it.
Sommelier beef. It doesn't really exist. Like what are we gonna do? Like,
So what is this?
We're gonna throw corks at each other.
So true.
So this is Theopolis Vineyards. This is her Petite Syrah 2013 vintage. Theopolis is a good friend of mine, black woman winemaker. She's in Mendocino County, California, making killer juice. Yeah, it's a problem. She is a problem. And this is one of those where I don't even know if it's in Illinois because she self-distributes. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I'm the plug, so.
There you go.
But she self-distributes. So she may be here in Illinois, but yeah, I love everything she's doing. And I don't think and this is how much I know I like you guys. I don't know if there's any more 2013.
Oh, ever. Dude, you didn't have to do all that.
That's cool. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? If there is another one, Theopolis.
That's it.
What up, homie? No, but I starting to get to some of my one of my managers is always like, yo, man, just drink the wine. Cause you know I'm a purist and I want to save it and like. But it's like, yo, it's meant to drink. Like,
you still have shoes in the box?
Huh?
You still have shoes in the box?
I do have a couple of joints in the box.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like, I want to.
Yeah, I know.
Like these boosts. Shout out to all the sneaker companies if you want to make me your first sommelier.
Same here as well.
Yeah, if you want to, give a sommelier sneaker deal. But like the Ultra Boosts, I was like, do I want to wear them? Like these are my Little League shoes, and when I bought them.
Oh my God, I got my fucking Boosts on too.
There you go, man. The Boosts are fire. Yeah, shout out Adidas.
These are 100% recycled.
Oh, you won. He beat me on that one. There you go. Hey, I know when I took the L. He beat me. He got the better shoe. But yeah, man, and they're so comfortable. This is my first pair of Ultra Boosts, and like these are my Little League shoes now. And I was like, I'm not like I love the kids, but I'm not finna wear it. But they don't really, because we're on turf. So I can do it on turf. Because if it was grass and dirt, then I'd be wearing something else.
So is it completely turf?
It's completely turf.
Wow.
Which is really cool. Only thing I don't like about it being completely turf is it makes fielding easier for them.
Say the ball,
So we have some tricks about I try to hit bad hops to them. I try to make it as hard as possible on them just so they can get that. One day we have there is a I guess a gravelly road next to the field. And so one day I'm like, we're gonna have practice here.
Yeah.
We're gonna take grounders here. So that's one day I want to do. One day when I'm really on one, when I feel like being
I don't think they're never gonna have the phobia of playing in a baseball diamond and there's a huge hole.
Yes.
And you just pop your knee into the hole. And you're
when you see when you go out, especially infielders, and you look and you be like, oh, there are rocks on this infield. I played on some really great fields and I played on some for real.
For real.
You go out and you manicure your position. I played short and you we are kicking all of this out the way. Y'all are not finna get me. Coach is not about to yell at me because of these pebbles. It is not happening.
True.
I remember one of the best plays I ever made in high school because we were playing the team we were playing didn't really have a field, because I went to a math, science, engineering high school. So like sports was important, but not that important, right? Which is good. Learning was more important, which we kind of got away from. But most education has gotten away from. But that's another subject. But so we were
the dollar, man.
No, it's crazy. So we were playing on this field that was like decent, but it was like a city field that hadn't been like kept up. It was early in the season, so like as the season goes on, they start to keep the fields up a little better. And this is in Nashville. And I threw a kid out from left field. He was trying to go second to home on a base hit. I threw him out from deep left field, and I was so proud of myself because I judged the ball path and saw like where it was gonna hit a little divot and played the divot. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, when I made this, I was like, yo, I don't know if you know this, but I'm great. Now I probably was terrible, but the fact that I made that play on a divot, I was like, yes.
A long throw too.
Yeah. Oh, it was a long throw. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like throwing a kid out off of a divot, it was really nice.
And they're not going to learn that playing on turf.
No, they're not going to learn to play. There's a different type of joy there. You know what I mean? There's a different type of joy of overcoming divots.
Yeah, right, exactly. Holes in
left
the
field.
ground.
Yeah, and I was like a sophomore. Like I was the only sophomore on the field, so like it was like, yo, I can't like. It's all juniors and seniors. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think maybe like. Yeah, I was the only sophomore getting any burn or freshman getting any burn, so I was like, yo, I gotta do something.
So when did you move to Chicago?
2012.
Okay.
Yeah, so 8 years ago. So I moved.
Were you always in Nashville? Or?
Yeah, born and raised in Nashville. Went to school, college in Birmingham, Alabama. Had a cup of coffee in Atlanta. Another story for another podcast is I managed a rap group for like 3 to 6 months in Atlanta.
Dope.
That was another life, but it was fire.
Is that what you mean by having a cup of coffee? You were just there for a second?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a cup of coffee.
There you go.
And
Nice.
it didn't even get cool. Like the coffee was still hot when I left. That's my time in Atlanta, and I still claim it though. Like I was like, yeah, I know Atlanta. It was 6 months.
I hear you.
I snitched on myself now, so I'm in trouble. So like, one day someone was like, I mean, you wasn't really in Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah, I know 3 streets.
There you go. Yeah. Great city, though.
Yeah, I love it.
But going back to what you were saying about drinking what you want to drink and not holding the reserves too long, are you adapting that now, or are you still holding?
I'm getting better at it. I think like as success comes. Is there a certain year
threshold that you're?
It's almost like, yo, if I have a reason that feels pretty good to drink it, then I'm gonna drink it. Like this was a reason that felt good enough.
Yeah.
And like I could still get her wine, and like I'll let you behind the curtain. So I could still get her wine, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I can't get the 13, but I can probably get the 14. And this helps her. So it's like, yo, and Absolutely. I've been wanting to drink this for a while.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this wine and did a pairing with it without being able to drink it because like I had it before. So it's like, yo, it's been on my mind. So it's like, why am I fighting the desire to have this wine? Like, just drink it. And this was a perfect opportunity. Like, bring 2 wines. I was like, well, I guess it's time to bring it, open it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do here is create those opportunities, right? For people to see and people to get on the wine, and even like on our regular casual podcast, like, hey, there's certain wines that we're drinking, we're always drinking. So that just goes back to the comment that I had pre-show.
Yeah. So it's always about like finding the right place, finding the right people, and taking advantage of those moments, being very present in those moments. And so like that's what opening this bottle was about. That's why showing these 2 wines is, it's showing the different parts of me, right? Like, the Rogue Giffler is geek, som, like I can out-cool you when it comes to wine. And then the Petit Syrah is like, showcasing somebody who makes really, really fire stuff. It's like, this is the underground.
How would you describe
artist.
this one?
So, this is great.
For
so it's like,
the audio listeners.
So this is like
mouth to salivate.
This is like almost like ripe, but not super ripe, inky, weighty, high alcohol, dense red. It is one of those wines that'll stain your teeth. It's one of those wines that is cold outside, right? And you've been outside all day, and you like all you want to do is get home and cuddle your lover, right? Like this is the wine you like. I just want to
feel it.
If I can just get back to you and just like just
Feel
hold
it.
me. Like
Yeah.
I don't want nothing to like you can put something on TV, you can play some music. Just let me just lay here and just hold you for a second, and just like I just want to like smell you and let the world spin on us.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those wines for me.
That's
for
good.
sure. It's one of, and it's just, and the thing about it is just like, you know, what they say, like, you know, 5 hours with what a woman can feel like with the person you love can feel like 5 seconds, and like 5 seconds with your hand on a hot stove can feel like 5 hours. This feels like 5 hours with the person you care about. Like you drink it and you're looking up and you're talking like a great podcast. Like it goes by fast. And you're like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
This wine is one of those where you're like, man, this wine speeds up time, right?
Yeah.
You look up and 6 bottles are gone just because you've been talking and hanging out. 6 bottles are gone, and when you went outside, it was 12, and now the sun's going down. You're like, what happened to the time? You're like, what? Wait, we were just here. like I need more of this, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So, what would you pair with this?
So as far as food wise, I think like this is really rich. I do like it with like.
Oh wait, let me cut you off really quick. What, just to nerd out, what is plus, minus? What does that all mean?
So when you talk about
describing wine,
so like they'll talk about like plus acidity, minus acidity. It's always about, so you have like kind of it's a metric of determining like the levels of acidity, the level of alcohol. So like medium plus, medium minus means like, so medium means it's just like there's not a lot of acidity.
Okay.
It's kind of like just right here, right? And acidity is like that thing that makes your mouth water.
Right.
So when we talk about acidity, like Pinot Grigio is like vanilla. It's right. So vanilla it doesn't have like any peaks and valleys. Like it's just everybody is kind of cool with vanilla. It doesn't really move people in one way or direction, right? And so anything like brighter or have more acidity in that is medium plus. And even if it's really, really bright, like rip your face off, like lemon juice straight in your mouth, like it's high acidity, right? Or something that's like fatty and has no acidity, it goes like you go medium minus or no acidity whatsoever, right? So those things, so that's kind of like the scale. That scale works. I think that scale is better it's good for sommeliers. I don't think it really resonates for people. The way I like to talk about wine.
I mean, that's like sommelier talk. I just always hear it, and I'm like, I don't know what exactly
it's
that
cool.
means.
Like I think that joint's cool. I think the way I talk about wine, like right, if we were talking about wine, you came in my shop or you were sitting at the bar, I'd say, okay, like, do you want it bright and minerally, right, or do you want rich and creamy? If we're talking about whites, right, do you want it kind of fatty, creamy, cheesy, like that weight, or do you want it like zippy, fresh, crisp, right? Like those are I give you those two things, and you can say kind of right and live on that spectrum. And then for reds, it's like, do you want to like, and we've already talked about sweet or dry. So you have sweet or dry, and then for the white you have bright, mineral, rich, and creamy, and then for the red you have like, do you want it fruity and juicy, or do you want it earthy and weighty? Right? And so that puts you in two directions. And that I think is good because now I can actually understand what you want, right? It helps me as a sommelier to be able to understand what you want. And like I've done it long enough to kind of get a feel from what you're saying and how you're saying it. And even like the cadence in which you say stuff, or like the body language, like I'm taking all that into account. But also it allows you to have a little bit more autonomy. So then when you walk into a restaurant or another retail shop or wine bar, right, you're not beholden to a brand, to a producer, right? You know style. So if I can teach you style, right, if I can help you find your own style, right, it's just like with dressing, right, with music. If I can help you find your own style, then you can go pick the music, you can go pick the clothes you want, instead of saying, oh, I just gotta go, I only got Gucci is my brand. It's like, well, I mean, everything Gucci makes ain't fly. Like the Balenciaga chunky shoe is ugly, right? Like, but if you ain't got style, you can be like, oh, it's Balenciaga, I gotta have it, right? Like when we're name dropping that, right? That stuff. So I don't want you to fall in love with those labels. I want you to fall in love with like, what is the aesthetic that you feel? And I think that's been difficult for us because we live in a society that doesn't really cultivate that mentality. So it is, a lot of it is swimming upstream, but I think we're the better for it. And people who do it or try it, they really appreciate it. And it makes them feel good, right? Like, I just want to give you that confidence, right? And this is my way to, like, give you a little bit of your confidence back. Like, society takes away your confidence. It takes away your feel good. Like, it takes away that childlike wonder a lot of times. Like, so this is my way to, like, I'm going to get it back to you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to feel weird, but I'm going to give you, here you go. Take that back with you.
And that's why people cling to it, right?
Yeah.
And they cling to that, and they probably patron your wine store because of
because they like, man, when I walk in them, I feel good about it.
People talk to you and acknowledge you, like, it's for sure.
And you, like, your style is valid, your taste, your palate is valid. Like, I'm the expert because I've, like, tasted hundreds of thousands of wines, but I'm not the expert in what you like. I'm the expert in getting you and helping you get to what you like, but I don't dictate what's good for you. You dictate that. And now I can taste quality, and I can taste, like, is this a sound wine? How it's made? But outside of that, like, it's on you, right? Yummy is personal.
Right.
You know what I mean? It is. It's all subjective. And I get you to the point of objectivity, and then you got to take it after that. And that's kind of like the space that I like to live in and play in and like talk from wine from that place. So
well, shit, man. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got bars.
Yeah, right? Deep. Well, just let us know, like, what you're seeing in the future, or kind of what you're moving right now, just to kind of kick it in the second half really quick.
Yeah, so kind of what I'm seeing in the future, and this is kind of like speaking the future into existence, is I think with COVID, with people doing more Zoom stuff and people, like, starting off with, like, only hanging out with their pods and the people that they're close with, I think we as a society, hopefully as a world society, are really focusing in on the things that are close to us.
Thanks, Corey. Not to cut you off.
No
worries.
Give him a shout out. Yeah, give him a shout out. What up? High Tower?
Casual.
What up, High Tower? You know what I'm saying? Out here. I know so great sommelier if you love, you know what I'm saying? Design and wine. Ooh, design and wine.
Sounds good.
Anyway, I'm not having any more glasses because I gotta go coach. Where's the water? No. But so like as a society, as a society, I think that we're focused more on, like, the quality of a thing. Like, what I've seen is when COVID first started, people were coming in and buying, I need the cheapest wine I could find. I need to find just the thing that could get me there, right. And then they started venturing outside of, like, I just like Cab and Pinot. And then they started, well, man, I drank Cab and Pinot for the last month. You know what I mean? Let's try something else. And so, like, that has been nice because I've slowly been able to, like, get people to expand what they like by just trying. And I think, like, we are going to become more experimental, and we're going to try things because we've had to sit with ourselves and strip away, like, our identity of, well, I can identify myself because I bought this really cool bottle that I can show off to my friends. But when you really get to focus on what you like and taste, and when you get to sit with yourself and have to think and be present in, like, what you're good at, what you're not good at, or, like, what gives you value or what you value provide to the world. Because if you think about this, I'm going to do this really quick. Is a lot of people who are sitting at home, right, furloughed, their identities were defined by the work that they did. But when you take that away, right, when you're taking the office commute, when you take away the clothes you're wearing, like, when you take all that away, then how are you going to re-identify yourself? Like, that's the scary thing, right? Like, what happens when the hamster wheel stops? Like, for me, one of the interesting things is when I go into the shop and when I leave the shop are not on rush hours, so I never really get to see that rush hour. So when I'm taking public transit, when I'm biking, like, the streets feel like they're a lot more calm. And every once in a while I get caught where I have to go to a meeting and do something, and, like, I got caught in rush hour a couple of times, and I was like, why are we're packing into this train for what? Like, like, what do we all need to be doing this at the exact same time at the exact same moment? And what are we getting from this? Like, how much more stress are we putting on ourselves for all of us having to move the exact same time in the exact same space, doing the exact same thing? What if we had the freedom and space to, like, work from home, to, like, work in a park to like work in a coffee shop. Like, why do we need this herd? Like, what is this herding doing to us? Like, you know, they herd cattle. Like, what happens when we break out from that? And I think like art, creativity, and I think design plays a lot in that. It's like, oh, I can find my identity in stuff that isn't defined by the work that I do. Mm-hmm. And I can find my identity in stuff that like, I may like this weird thing over here, and that's okay. And I'm accepted because like that is the thing that makes me interesting. Not I like the natural wine that everybody else is drinking, or like I'm going to the bar that everyone else is going to. Like, I got to do the happy hour when everybody else is doing. Like, happy hour is definitely designed to like, oh, we're going to jam pack as many people in this place, serve them probably subpar cocktails to make as much money on them, get them drunk to go home so they don't have to think about like where their life is. It's like, yo, that's depressing.
Super depressing.
Right? Yeah. Or we could sit here, have this glass of Petit Syrah, you know, you try something you never had and be like, oh, man, this is kind of cool. And we can slow down. So, yeah. So, this is good because...
First time you messed up, too.
Oops. Shout out to my management team and all the people who would cuss me out if I didn't say what's happening. So, I have a wine shop in the West Loop called 1340. It is just east of old Johnny's Ice House, right? So if you think about where it is, 4 blocks east of United Center, but Johnny's Ice House is right around the corner from Johnny's Ice House. It's a wine bar, retail shop. The bar is not open right now, of course, because of COVID, but the retail shop, we're doing curbside delivery. You can do in-store pickup. And we do traditional delivery as well. So that's happening. Additionally to that, I have an event series called Samples of Samples. We're not traveling this year, of course, but you know, the tour 2021 is definitely happening. And what Samples of Samples is doing is, right now on my Instagram, you can follow me at Derrick C. Westbrook. That's DerrickC Westbrook. It's very long, but definitely worth the type. And there I'm doing samples and sample snippets so you can see what the tour is like. In addition to that, because I love Theopolis, and you know, I actually am doing one of her samples and samples with one of her wines in this kind of climate. And because, you know, I like to talk about, as we talked in the podcast, about masculinity, identity, talking about patriarchy. We've done a series where we talk about race and wine, and it starts to expand a bit. But we did a show with Sarah Spain where myself, Theopolis, and a really good friend of mine, Theo Foster, who's a PhD, and he's a PhD from Northwestern. He's teaching right now in Louisiana. And we get into those really, really difficult conversations. And, you know, wine is a lubricant to make those conversations easier. So we just dive in. And that's on YouTube right now at Derrick C. Westbrook. So if you look that up, you can find that. Or I think the next conversation is going to be about patriarchy and racism, the intersection between that. Because I think, like, you know, for me, you know, I treat that as a therapy of sorts. I go to my real therapist first. There you go. And then come back and like talk through those issues and put those issues on display for everyone else. Because I think, like, if I can, you know, like work through my stuff, you know, in a public forum, then it gives other people space to feel comfortable working through their issues. Yeah. And so, like, I like to use it. It's super emotionally draining for me, but every time I talk to people after, they feel release from that, and so that makes me feel good. So right. But yeah, so samples and samples on my Instagram, on the YouTube, Derrick C. Westbrook, is the conversations about, you know, just inequality in society, but mainly focusing on race for this one. We did one already about just race, period, and now we're doing race and patriarchy, I hope. And then next we're going to get into like gender identity. I want to dive into those really those third world conversations, because until we start to talk about those things and until we use, you know, a conduit like wine to get into that conversation, it's hard to develop. So with all that said, 1340 West Madison, Derrick C. Westbrook on Instagram, Derrick C. Westbrook _ on Twitter, and Derrick C. Westbrook on YouTube. You can find me, you can follow me. You know what I mean? I'm on Facebook, same thing. Guess what it is? Derrick C.
Fair.
Westbrook.
Well, thank you, man.
But yeah,
Dude, thank you for sharing. Another cheers, dude.
I really appreciate you having me.
Salud.
Your safety is important. If you observe unattended packages, vandalism, or suspicious activity, inform CTA personnel immediately.